uh, telling all of you about what Royal Psychologist community is. Royal Psychologist community is actually internationally registered organization from GIOCP and ICCPP, and it offers a variety of short certified online psychological courses, workshops, webinars, and conferences. And Alhamdulillah, we have started offering postgraduate diplomas as well. Uh, yeah, so now let me just introduce, let me just tell all of you that what our topic today, the topic for the today's class is reframing. So what reframing is basically? Reframing is basically the restructuring of the thought patterns and mindset, that how can we change our mindset to make ourselves feel better. As we are explaining this topic, let me just introduce all of you to our wonderful trainer today. She is Ma'am Muniza Ali, who is a hypnotherapist, a clinical psychologist, and a resilience coach as well. So, warm welcome, ma'am. It's over to you. You may start now, please.
Thank you so much for the lovely introduction. I am also a trainer of NLP as well, Neuro Linguistic Program. So, salam everyone. A very warm welcome to all, and thank you so much for having me. Today we will be discussing and learning ways to see things differently so we start living differently. Let's set the premise first. I would request all you to mute your mics and hold your questions until the after of the session, so we get to the end uninterrupted. Your questions will be answered, inshallah. And just pay attention and take notes like crazy. This is a very, very interesting topic, very close to my heart. And this is one tool that we don't need anyone else to do it for us or with us. We can do it on ourselves. We can do it on other people. This is an excellent, very powerful tool. So let's start. The quality of our life depends upon two things. I want to know, anyone has an idea what are those two things that the quality of our life depends upon? What do you think those two things are? Anyone? Put your answers in the chat box.
One is,
yes, relationships. That's a good answer. Breathing, financial stability, health. Nice. Peace of mind, peace, being happy, love. So these are all good answers. These are all right answers as well. But have you ever seen, met or heard about someone who has a lot of money and he's still miserable? We sure have. Have we met a person who has great relationships, who have a lot of friends, but still they feel lonely? Or who has all the luxuries, amenities, good health, and blessings that you can think of, but they're still depressed. So let me tell you what those two things are. If we go at the bottom, the two things that the quality of our life depends upon is the meaning and the emotions. Meaning that we give to the words, situation, and instances that are happening in our life, and emotions that we are experiencing. These are the only two things that will decide the quality of your life. Now grab your pens and papers, take notes, because today we'll be learning about a great tool of neuro-linguistic programming that I love, that is very, as I told you, very close to my heart. This is called reframing, which helps us to change the meaning, which changes the emotions inside, and hence the quality of our life. Simply, reframing is a strategy that we can use either on ourselves or other people. It has a remarkable use in therapy as well. Before going further, let me share a story because I love stories. So it was the 1800s. There was a little boy living with his parents in Milano, Ohio. He had a massive dislike of the school system and his teachers. He was always ridiculed and punished for his different ways in schools, classmates making fun of him, teachers insulting and scolding him, leaving him feeling, I can't do anything right. He was deaf in one ear and could not hear properly, making him think, I just can't do anything right. So much so that one day the teachers called him in the class and they called him ordered or mentally disabled. He was sad. He was mad. He was heartbroken. He stormed home in disgust. He came home and poured his heart out to his mom. With tears in his bright, sparkling eyes, looked at her sadly and said, Mother, I can't do anything right. The mom wiped his tears, gave him a kiss on the forehead, smiled at him and said, That's not who you are. A warm, fuzzy, comforting feeling filled his heart. His belief that I can't do anything right, as if losing its power, cracking and getting weak. Next morning, his mother accompanied him to school seeking an explanation for this criticism. In those days, ordered was used to describe someone as mentally ill. The teacher told her he's a difficult student, he has trouble paying attention in class. The mother looked at the little boy with love, kindness, and purity of the heart, held his face in her hands, and she said, with confidence, That's not who you are. Again, a burst of strong, powerful energy took over all over his senses, and he said, that I can't do anything right. But that belief now shattering into pieces and fading away, fading into nothing. And this feeling was new. It was exciting. It was powerful. His teachers went on saying that he was not very intelligent and would never amount to much. He is too stupid to learn. Their own words. The mother took his hand, started walking towards the door, whispered in his ear, That's not who you are. As they were leaving school, he heard his inner voice that used to tell him, I can't do anything right, telling him, That's not who you are. As he was walking home, he left the old idea behind him, with every step moving forward like a free spirit, skipping and dancing while holding his loving mother's hand. One day, the boy came home and gave paper to his mother. He told her, My teacher gave this paper, a letter to me, and told me to only give it to my mother. And asked, What does it say, mother? His mother's eyes got tearful as she read the letter out loud to her child. Your son is a genius. The school is too small for him and doesn't have enough good teachers for training him. Please teach him yourself. That boy was overjoyed, very excited. He was full of energy. His mother's words, a genius, filled him with excitement. He got his answer to, but that's not who you are. Then who am I? I am a genius. A new belief, a new vision, a new way of life, a new person was created inside of him. He noticed himself saying, sad, confused, a failure, that's not who you are, but a genius. He felt a wave of strong willpower and self-confidence in himself. And at that moment, he made a promise to himself to make his mother proud of him. With this promise, he showed true appreciation for the love and belief his mother had in him. The mother's name was Nancy. She really believed that her son was special and had great potential. She decided to homeschool him herself. Nancy was not very formally educated, but she was a great teacher. She encouraged her son's curiosity and allowed him to explore the world around him, unleashing that genius's great potential. She taught him how to read, write, and do basic math, and made an effort to engage his interests by reading him works of good literature and history that she had learned to love. She also instilled in him a love of learning and desire to discover new things. Despite her financial struggles, Nancy continued to support her son's education. She even took in extra work to buy him books and equipment for his experiments. She was a strong and determined woman. She was more dedicated than any teacher was likely to be, and she had the flexibility to experiment with various ways of nurturing her son's love of learning. Her unwavering belief in that genius who had great potential gave him the confidence to keep pursuing his dreams, using innovative and creative methods that would appeal to his curious and inventive mind. With that empowering new belief and great potential, he became successful in everything he did. He was unleashed, uninhibited. He developed a process of self-education and learning independently. By the age of 11, he had read works by Shakespeare and Dickens, Edward Gibbon, David Hume, and many more. His family was not economically well off. So at the age of 12, he started selling candy, books, and newspaper to help his father. At 15 years of age, he began to lose much of his hearing. Even that did not stop him. In fact, he expanded his great potential by using it to his advantage, developing focus and concentration, and becoming successful at everything he put his mind to. He was fascinated most by science. He devoured books on electricity, mechanics, chemical analysis, manufacturing technology, and much more. Through his experiments, he learned more and more about electricity, which was to revolutionize the world, realizing his great potential at every step, using it and becoming one of the most successful inventors of science world. Now, years later, after his mother had died and he was looking through or going through old family things, now he was one of the greatest inventors of that century. He suddenly saw a folded piece of paper in the corner of the desk drawer. It was the same letter that he bought from school that was for her mother to read. He took it and remembered how emotional his mother had been after reading it. He opened it and he started reading it with shock, surprise, and tears rolling his eyes. So, reframing in NLP is about changing the frame for the problem so it gets a new meaning. Hence, new reactions and new behaviors become possible. Reframing is about changing the narrative in our minds, transforming the story from the one that is limiting to one that is full of possibilities. It's like changing the picture of the frame or changing the lens through which we view the world. The angle of perspective that you look at the problem from changes how you feel and respond to it. That's what actually creates the shift. I mean, simply, my response to someone slipping on a banana skin will be different as an observer than a victim, right? We've all seen that. Now, it is said that in our life, there are only two types of things. One, that we can control, and two, that we cannot control. Or we can say that the things that we can change and the things that we cannot change. For example, if there's a storm outside, now the storm itself cannot be changed, cannot be controlled, but how we choose to feel about that storm can be changed, can be controlled. Now, as an NLP practitioners, we believe that all depends upon how we look at each of the things, how we interpret it in our minds, the way that we create our reality. Now, we all have our own reality because we construct the reality in our minds. My reality of the same thing could be different from your reality of the same situation. That's why you see differences in opinions and people having different reactions to the same situation. Take, for example, the situation in Palestine, or the political situation in our country, or debates among people who believe in one God or many or none, all standing on their version of the reality of the world that they see. Exactly why the children from same parents can remember the same event from childhood very differently from each other, even though the incident that happened was exactly the same. So the difference in reality, or how we interpret things different from each other, lies in the way we process the information inside our brain. A lot of things are at play at the unconscious level of the mind to help us make sense of what is going on around us. I won't go into much detail because this is related NLP. This is a topic of NLP altogether. And this is what we do in the training when I'm training the practitioners. So, but I will make it very easy for you to understand and to grasp the idea. So how do we interpret information in our minds? The millions of bits of information that is bombarded onto us is transformed by our fabulous brain every second. These transformations include the filters, deletion, distortion, generalization, along with other filters, which are our values, our belief systems, our memories, past experiences, and so on. The brain is using all of that to make sense of all the information that is coming to you and giving you the exact thing that you can consciously interpret and make sense of. Our brain uses this data to create a final picture in our mind, a final thing, which then produces the emotion, which initiates the state, mental or physical state inside us, which results in the behavior, how we are acting or behaving or talking or what are we doing. So this final picture that is created of all the information after applying all the filters is called internal representation in NLP. Remember this term for a while, internal representation, or what we call as IR. Now, after this IR or internal representation is made, our brain transforms it one more time, labeling it, defining it, naming it, using language or words to make it more understandable to us. So we use language or words to label it and then assign meaning to it. The meaning is the internal representation of the feeling that you got. The thing with words is that the meaning of each of them is now either experiential or it is perceived. What do I mean by that? Let's take the word love, for example. There is an experiential meaning of love that we receive from our loved ones, but there can also be a perceived meaning of love that we derive from books, from media, from movies, from stories, from other people's looking at them. And now we have put a variety of acts of love under the same umbrella of this is what love is. So whenever we experience the same or see the same somewhere, we have a word for it and we call it love. When we get any form of it, we feel loved, and the absence of it, which is not love, you attach all forms which are either opposite of love or the reasons that creates the absence of love, like hate, not being desirable, not good enough, etc., etc. And same goes for success. We get a perceived meaning of success from the environment around us and have a certain picture attached to it. And whoever matches that, we will bring our perception, the idea of success, the definition of success, match it with the meaning, call it a success. If we don't match it, we call it a failure. If it doesn't match, we call it a failure, which can have multiple meanings which is sad, being not good enough, which makes you miserable, and which affects us in many unwanted ways. Changes your state, changes your behavior. Now, this same goes for each and every word, its definition and its meaning. So we have a linguistic labeling of everything, every emotion, every action, every experience, every memory. And every labeling, every definition has a meaning assigned to it. Nothing is without meaning. Everything has a meaning for you, which is specific for you. This is how we communicate with ourselves in our minds, whether quietly or out loud, and this is how we communicate with others about an external event, past, present, future, inside or outside of us. Now, once the words are in place, the language is in place now. And language is powerful. I mean, think about it. All forms of language or all forms of knowledge of everything we have is passed on to us through language, words. Even God speaks to us in words. One of the biggest favors that he mentions in Quran is a gift given to us, the ability of speech, the ability to communicate, to explain. Allamahul Bayan. So we have to be very careful when using this gift. So we use language, words, to structure, describe, define, or label every experience, every information, everything around us. Inside of us, outside of us. In simple words, we put labels on every internal representation by using words in the language and assign meanings to these words to make sense of it all. So far, so good. Now that expression, definition, or labeling using the language is framing that internal representation. Now we have framed that internal representation by defining it, by labeling it, by putting a word on it, assigning meaning. And now these have power, a lot of power. Now these words are not merely words. These have a power over you to influence and control you. They can be your friends, they can be your enemy. A single word can have such a tremendous impact to make you or break you, to fail you or make you succeed, to fill you with anger, rage, despair, sadness, misery, and pain, or to bring colors to your life by making you feel happy, joyous, excited, hopeful, and content. The words we speak, either with ourselves, inside or out loud, or with anyone else, can impact everything. Words trigger everything. And if we become mindful of the words that are being used, we can control our state and the resulting unnecessary behavior. And this is what we call framing or reframing. And when somebody has a problem, they are unable to see what lies outside of the boundary of that problem. If this is the problem, the labeling, we are stuck inside. Someone with a problem will be unable to see outside of this box. They are now stuck in this box. And when we are inside the problem, all we can see everywhere is the problem. So when we want to change the concept of reality to impact the model of the world, we need to shake up that boundary. Give it a really good shake. And with reframing, you can shake them so hard, so much so that you may make the problem dissolve completely, or the boundary has been loosened enough to make them see what lies outside of the problem, which is not problem. So even if you don't resolve the problem completely with one single reframe, you have for sure impacted in a really positive way. It's about looking at the problem from a different angle, so the response to the problem changes. Reframing is about changing the narrative in our minds, transforming the story from one of the, as I said, from one of the limiting ones to the one full of possibilities. It's like changing the picture of the frame, changing the lens, so it becomes new. Now, reframing is essentially about changing the meaning or changing the context of the presenting problem or the problem that we are dealing with. It's a very powerful communication tool. It enables us to see something that was there all along, but previously it was either ignored, avoided, or went unrecognized. The angle or perspective that you look at the problem from changes how you feel and respond to it. And that's what we're looking for when we are reframing. Now let's come to how exactly can we change the angle or change the perspective to make the problem go away? I mean, this is now the beef that we will work on. How do we do that? The first way is what we call the foveal vision versus peripheral vision, or fixated mindset versus big picture mindset. Foveal vision is the focused vision. Have you ever seen a horse wearing those, side pads so they're not distracted by what is going on around them and they're only focusing on the road, what is in front of them? Now, this vision is excellent when we need to hyper-focus on a task, but it becomes problematic when we are stuck in the problem. Because when we are in this vision, all that we can see, wherever we look, is the problem itself and nothing else. And since we are inside the problem, we are unable to look at solutions.